Picture this. A black man, weary from a long drive, pulls into a rest stop for a moment of peace, only to be swarmed by racist cops, cuffed, and humiliated for no reason but the color of his skin. But what happens when the tables turn, and the next day, he's a judge staring down those same officers in court? If you're in the USA or UK, hungry for gripping tales that expose injustice and flip the script with jaw-dropping twists, smash that subscribe button now. Join our community of truth seekers and dive into stories that spark change and keep you on the edge of your seat. Don't wait. Subscribe today and fuel the fight for justice. The night was heavy with humidity. The air thick as molasses at a lonely rest stop just off Interstate 20 in rural Alabama, where the only sounds were the chirping of crickets and the occasional rumble of a passing semi. Isaiah Carter, a 42-year-old black man with salt and pepper hair and a quiet dignity honed by years of navigating a world that often saw him as a threat, had pulled his modest Toyota Camry into the dimly lit lot to stretch his legs and sip cold coffee from a thermos. A civil rights attorney by trade, Isaiah was on his way to Montgomery for a conference, but his true calling was his recent appointment as a circuit judge, a role he'd earned through decades of grit, outmaneuvering prejudice in courtrooms and classrooms alike. As he leaned against his car, scrolling through emails under the faint glow of a street lamp, two patrol cars screeched into the lot, their lights flashing like warning beacons. Officers Dale Pritchard and Travis Boone, both white, both burly, stepped out with hands on holsters, their faces set in that familiar mix of suspicion and contempt. "Hands where we can see 'em," Pritchard barked, his voice cutting through the still night. Isaiah froze, not out of fear, but from the bone-deep exhaustion of knowing the script all too well. "Officers, I'm just resting here," Isaiah said calmly, raising his hand slowly, his phone still clutched in one. Boone, younger and twitchier, sneered. "Resting, huh? What's a guy like you doing out here alone?" The implication hung heavy. Black, alone, therefore trouble. Isaiah's jaw tightened, but he kept his tone even, reciting his rights like a mantra. "I'm complying. I'm a licensed driver. No warrants, no weapons." But Pritchard wasn't listening. He'd already decided the narrative. "Step away from a vehicle," he ordered, yanking Isaiah's arm with unnecessary force, slamming him against the hood. The thermos clattered to the ground, coffee pooling like blood. Boone rummaged through the car, tossing papers from Isaiah's briefcase. Legal briefs, a judge's robe folded neatly, onto the gravel. "Looks like a lawyer," Boone mocked, holding up a business card. "Or a liar." They cuffed him, claiming a suspicious person report, though no such call existed. As they shoved him into a patrol car, Isaiah memorized their badge numbers, his mind already working like a steel trap. At the county jail, the fluorescent lights buzzed like angry wasps, casting harsh shadows on the peeling walls. Isaiah sat in a holding cell, his suit wrinkled, his dignity bruised but unbroken. He overheard Pritchard and Boone laughing with the desk sergeant about teaching him a lesson. Isaiah said nothing, his silence a weapon forged in courtrooms where he'd faced down prosecutors who underestimated him. By morning, he was released on his own recognizance after a quick call to his law firm, but the officers' smug faces lingered in his mind. What they didn't know, what no one in that podunk precinct knew, was that Isaiah was due in court that very day, not as a defendant, but as a newly appointed judge presiding over misdemeanor hearings in the county courthouse, a temporary assignment to clear a backlog. Twist 1. As Pritchard and Boone strutted into the courtroom, expecting to testify against a petty theft suspect, they froze mid-step. There, on the bench, in black robes, sat Isaiah Carter, his gaze piercing through them like a blade. "All rise," the bailiff called, and the room stood, but Pritchard's knees wobbled. Isaiah's voice was calm but commanding as he read the docket, his eyes locking onto the officers when their names were called as witnesses. "Officers Pritchard and Boone, you're here to testify, correct?" he asked, his tone neutral but laced with an edge only they could feel. Boone stammered, "Why, yes, Your Honor," while Pritchard's face reddened, sweat beading on his brow. Isaiah didn't recuse himself. He had no charges pending, no conflict, only a burning resolve to expose the rot. The case they were testifying in was flimsy, a shoplifting charge with no evidence beyond their word. Isaiah leaned forward, questioning their report with surgical precision. "Officer Pritchard, You state the suspect fled. Yet the store security footage shows no such thing. Care to explain? The room grew tense. Whispers rippled through the gallery. Pritchard fumbled, caught in a lie. Twist 2. Isaiah dismissed the case for lack of evidence, but not before ordering the officer's body cam footage from the previous night. His arrest be submitted for review. The footage was damning. It showed Pritchard's rough handling, Boone's racial slurs muttered under his breath, and no justification for the stop. Isaiah didn't stop there. He subpoenaed their personnel files, uncovering a pattern of complaints. Excessive force, racial profiling, buried by a complicit precinct captain. The courtroom became a battleground, with Isaiah wielding his gavel like a sword. Word spread fast. By noon, local reporters crowded the courthouse steps, phones buzzing with ex-posts. Black judge turns tables on racist cops. The officers were suspended pending investigation, but the story grew darker. Twist 3. That night, Isaiah's car was vandalized, tires slashed, a racial slur spray painted on the hood. A note tucked under the wiper read, "Step down or else." Isaiah's blood ran cold, but he'd face worse. Death threats during a case against a corrupt sheriff years ago. He doubled down, working with a state investigator, Maya Chun, who'd been tracking a clique of rogue cops tied to a local white supremacist group. The investigation unraveled conspiracy. Pritchard and Boone weren't just bad apples. They were enforcers for a network skimming drug money and framing minorities to keep their precincts tough on crime, stats high. Isaiah, now a target, moved his family to a safe house. His teenage daughter, Nia, asking tearfully why they couldn't just leave. "Because running lets them win," he told her, his voice steady but heartbreaking. The climax came at a public hearing Isaiah convened, live-streamed to millions. He presented evidence, wiretaps, bank records, whistleblower testimony from a rookie cop who'd had enough. Pritchard cracked under questioning, confessing to planting evidence on orders from Captain Heller, who was arrested mid-hearing, cuffs snapping on his wrists as cameras flashed. Twist 4, but Heller's last act was a desperate one. He tipped off the supremacist group, who ambushed Isaiah's convoy en route to the safe house. Gunfire erupted on a back road, bullets shattering windows. Isaiah, armed only with a borrowed pistol, shielded Nia, returning fire until state troopers arrived. The attackers fled, but one was caught, revealing Heller's broader network reaching into state politics. In the aftermath, Isaiah's rulings dismantled the precinct's corrupt core. Pritchard and Boone faced prison, their badges stripped. Isaiah, hailed as a hero, became a national figure, his face on Time magazine, his story fueling reform bills. But the final twist lingered. At a quiet rest stop months later, as Isaiah paused during a drive, a young black teen approached, nervous, thanking him. "You made me believe we can fight back," the boy said. Isaiah smiled, but his eyes scanned the lot, ever vigilant. Justice was won, but the road was long, and he'd never stop driving it.